The relationship between Noongar Aboriginal corporations with management control systems, or MCS, and state governments that also use MCS reveals some intriguing similarities, despite their vastly different scales and purposes. Both entities use MCS to streamline their operations, maintain accountability, and deliver services effectively. Below is an exploration of how Noongar Aboriginal corporations with MCS might mimic state governments with similar systems. Strategic planning and governance. Both Noongar Aboriginal corporations and state governments implement strategic planning to achieve long-term objectives. Noongar corporations, often structured around cultural, economic and social responsibilities, use MCS to track the effectiveness of their policies and ensure that resources are allocated efficiently. Similarly, state governments rely on MCS to monitor progress towards policy goals, track performance and ensure public accountability. In both cases, MCS facilitates governance by aligning operations with overarching strategic plans. Financial accountability and transparency. One of the core functions of MCS in both Noongar corporations and state governments is to manage financial accountability. Both entities need to ensure that funds are properly allocated, tracked and audited. For state governments, this is crucial for maintaining public trust and ensuring taxpayer money is spent appropriately. Noongar corporations, particularly those managing significant land settlements and funds from Indigenous land agreements, also require robust financial controls to manage resources effectively, maintain community trust, and comply with regulatory frameworks. Monitoring and reporting MCS systems provide tools for monitoring activities and reporting outcomes, allowing both Noongar corporations and state governments to assess whether they are meeting their targets. In state governments, MCS supports reporting to the public and other stakeholders, often through annual reports, performance evaluations and budget reviews. Noongar corporations, similarly, use MCS to report to their community members and funding bodies, ensuring transparency and accountability for the resources they manage. Regulatory compliance. Both Noongar corporations and state governments must adhere to a variety of regulatory frameworks. State governments operate within legislative frameworks that dictate financial, environmental and social responsibilities, using MCS to ensure compliance. Noongar corporations, which often manage complex land use agreements, cultural preservation efforts and community services, must also comply with state and federal regulations. MCS helps ensure that these corporations can track their compliance with legal requirements, which is essential for maintaining their operations and securing future funding. Community engagement and stakeholder management. Both entities serve as intermediaries between different stakeholders, and MCS helps them manage these relationships. For state governments, this might involve public consultation processes, managing relationships with industry and ensuring that policies meet the needs of the population. Noongar corporations also have multiple stakeholders, including their communities, government agencies and private enterprises. MCS enables them to manage community consultations, track feedback, and ensure that their decisions reflect the needs and aspirations of their members, much like how state governments must balance the interests of various constituents. Decision-making frameworks. MCS provides data-driven insights that assist in decision-making for both Noongar corporations and state governments. In state governments, decision-making is often supported by extensive data on public needs, economic conditions and social trends, all of which are tracked through MCS. Noongar corporations, particularly those that manage land and cultural assets, use MCS to make informed decisions regarding resource use, community development and economic participation. This similarity in decision-making processes highlights how both entities use MCS to bring structure and rigor to their operations. Risk management. Risk management is a key concern for both Noongar corporations and state governments, and MCS plays a vital role in mitigating risks. For state governments, this may involve managing economic risks, social unrest, or environmental crises. Noongar corporations managing land rights, community well-being, and cultural preservation face unique risks related to the mismanagement of resources or cultural assets. Both use MCS to identify, assess, and mitigate risks, ensuring the sustainability and resilience of their operations. Conclusion: Noongar Aboriginal corporations, though smaller and more focused on community and cultural outcomes, share many functional similarities with state governments through their use of MCS. Both rely on these systems to manage resources, ensure accountability, comply with regulations, and engage with stakeholders. The use of MCS allows Noongar corporations to operate with a level of sophistication similar to that of state governments, despite the difference in scale and scope, ultimately helping them to achieve their strategic goals and deliver services to their communities effectively.